If you want to make videos, you have to have some ability to edit them, but it doesn't mean that you have to start off as a professional editor. So let's talk about some of the basic things that you need to know as you start editing in Premiere Pro. I have been editing since I was 14 years old. I have a lot of practice. I've been doing this for a long time. And there's a couple of things I want you to keep in mind as we get started. First of all, there's a ton of different ways that you can do each of these things. This is just the way I like to edit. Editing is a very personal thing. You want to create your own style, your own creativity, your own flow. But just understanding some of these basics will at least help you get started. And then as you practice and you do more, then you can experiment and you can really find your own voice in your edit. Before you ever get started on your edit, it's really important that you organize your project in a way that is going to help you stay organized all throughout your edit. So the first thing that I do is I organize my footage into folders, and I give each video its own folder. This is just so that if, let's say I have media go offline, it's really simple for me to relink that media because it'll say like, oh, this one's missing. And I know that's from video 105. So I'm able to relink it super easy. Another reason you might want to stay really organized is if you are transferring projects back and forth between editors. Sometimes I'll work on a project for a while and then I'll pass it over to somebody else and they'll do some things on it. And if your project is really messy, other editors are not going to want to work with you. So just make sure to keep your project as organized as possible for a myriad of reasons. The next thing I want to do is I want to match what it looks like in my Finder window to what my project looks like in Premiere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by creating a footage bin. And from there, I'm just going to bring my footage into that bin. Other bins that you might want to create to keep your project organized would be like a sequence bin, a music bin, graphics, titles, things like that. The next thing I'm going to do is create a sequence for each video. You could have it where you just have one sequence and you have all of your videos on that sequence. I've done it that way before. It's not my favorite. I think it can get a little bit messy. Let's say that you want to go back and make changes to video 104 in the future. Finding it's a little bit more complicated. Maybe you're going based off of the time code. Now the time code's all messed up. So just trust me when I say create a sequence per video. You could also create a project per video, but when we're trying to do bulk everything, keeping it all in one project is a lot easier for me because I'm not having to open different projects. I can copy and paste attributes from sequence to sequence, so it just helps me go a lot faster in the edit. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is create a sequence, like I said, per video. So I'm going to go to new sequence, and then to make it really simple, I'm just going to copy the title because again, I want everything to match. So this is the title I have in Finder. It's what I have in footage. So it's what I'm going to use as my sequence. And then I'm just going to go through and do that for each video I have. From there, I'm going to create a sequence bin and drop those in there. Again, I like to stay super organized. I will be adding some lower thirds and other graphics in here. So I'm going to create an assets folder where I'll drop those. I will go grab those now, actually. And we'll drop those in there. That way I start out having everything that I need to edit my videos. After that, I need to sync up my video with my audio. If you're recording in a way that your audio is already synced, you can skip this step. I do recommend that you do record your audio separate for a lot of different reasons. We could talk about that in other videos, but I'm going to show you how I like to sync up my audio and my video. In order to do this really easily, while you're recording your videos, make sure at the beginning or the end to do some sort of slate, or you can even just clap. That way you can find the clap and sync to the clap, and it'll make it really, really easy. Everything will sync up for you and you don't have to go through and like watch your voice and, try to match it. I have done that before and it's a pain. It's possible, but it's a pain. So again, make your life easy and do some sort of clap during your video so that it's easy to sync up. So we'll go to this video here. We're gonna go to our footage. And as you can see, if I go to this little tab here, you can see these big giant lines. These are claps. So I can go to, I probably did it once and then realized I hadn't started recording something. So, oops, let's turn on the volume, that would help. So you can hear that. I'm gonna press in point, go back to video, and then I can drag down my footage. And then I go to the second camera angle and do the same thing. So I knew it was the second clap. If you hit shift and tab over, you can go through a lot faster. So all I'm doing to go frame by frame is using the arrow keys right here. If you hit shift and the arrow keys, it goes by 5 frames instead of 1 frame, so it goes by a lot faster. But basically, we're gonna zoom in a little so we can get closer. Arrow over, when you hear it, click in point, go back to video. We're gonna drag it right on top because we know those two are synced. You can even tell by the fact that these lovely lines line up. Then we're gonna go to our audio. This is our main audio track, so it's definitely a little bit louder. Again, we can see that that's all nice and synced up. If I press play, of what people really like. Now you can hear that it's really echoey. So the only track that I really care about having the audio for is this green track here. So I'm going to mute the other two. The other 2 tracks are there as redundancies. So if there was something wrong with my lav mic recording, then I have a backup so I'm not completely just out of luck. If I want to adjust the volume of the audio, it looks a little low. We generally like for it to hit about this -12. Somewhere between -12 and -9 is the volume that we're going for. So when you hit play, you'll be able to tell where it's at. Or I'm like, you know what, I don't think. See, it's a little bit low. So we're gonna bring the gain up. Ideally, you don't want to have to bring the gain up too much. I have my volume down just slightly in this room because it's really echoey. But if you have to boost the gain by like 20 or something like that, you are going to start to hear some noise, some like whistling in the background. So try to record your volume as close to -12 as you possibly can, knowing that you might have to bump it up just a little bit. Once you start getting up in this range, it's going to start peaking. So let's listen now. The catch, what's the catch, what's the catch? So you can see how generally it's sticking right around 12. You know, you're gonna see it kind of doing this, but if in general it's sort of meaning that -12, that's exactly where you wanna be. Next, I'm gonna go in and I'm going to make my cuts. One little trick I like to do is if you look at the audio, you can tell when I'm speaking and when I'm not speaking. This helps speed up my editing process because I know that I'm gonna cut all of this out. So then I can go over to my razor tool and I can click each of those, drag here, delete, and then this is where my video starts. Another trick I like to use is we use a 2-camera system. I'm not gonna go into a ton of detail on that, but what helps me in my edit is when I mess up, I switch to the other camera. So if I have 5 of these little peaks, and they're all facing the same camera, then I know that probably the last one was the best one. And once I switched cameras, that's when I started a new thought. So it helps me so I don't have to listen to every single one. I also edit a lot of my own stuff, so I remember what happened during the edit. And I do make mistakes every once in a while where I'm like, oh, I actually skipped something because maybe I thought I had switched cameras, but I didn't. And then I'll have to go back and fix that. But in general, it works really well and it helps me to skip a lot of steps as I'm editing and not spend so much time. I like to edit with shortcuts. I don't want to go too deep into this because I want to keep this as simple as possible, but this will absolutely change your editing. So let me just show you. If we go up to our keyboard shortcuts, I use Q, W, and C. You can customize this. So I actually added these in, but these are 3 shortcuts, so you're definitely gonna wanna add to your keyboard. So C, I have it as add edit to all tracks. So this allows me to press C and it will cut everything at once, so I don't have to go through and razor tool each of my lines. Q, I have ripple trim previous edit to playhead. So I'll show you what this looks like. But basically, instead of having to go and delete this, I can just hit Q and it will delete everything up to that playhead. And W does the opposite. It just trims everything after that playhead. So let me show you kind of how this works. So if I went through here, I know this is the part, I hit C, come up to here, and I hit Q. Or I can do a C here. See how it cuts all the lines at once? And then I would hit W. Now again, you have to set these. These aren't going to be just regular shortcuts. So the ones to keep in mind are ripple trim previous edit to playhead, ripple trim next edit to playhead, and add edit to all tracks. The way you can do that is you go down here, you search for those, and then you just drag them up to whatever you want that to be. If you want to delete something, so like I start facing this way, and then I move over to this camera, I just click on it and hit delete. And then I'm basically just going to go back and forth and do my edits. I also like to edit in double time. I'm trying to get through a lot of content. I do go back through and watch afterwards in regular time to make sure everything sounds okay. Because sometimes you maybe will have a little bit of a long cut or something. But in order to do that, you can use J, K, and L. And I just hit L to play, and then it goes into double time if I hit it again. It sounds really kind of crazy. But it's something that I still think about often, so it obviously worked. My husband absolutely hates it. I watch a lot of YouTube videos in double time as well. I actually have a really hard time watching stuff in single time at this point because I do watch so many things through in double time just to get through a lot more. But that's another really great trick. Again, add your own flair. One thing we love to add into our YouTube videos is a stinger, and I'll show you that. So that's in our assets. We've got our little stinger. You saw it in this video. This is our little stinger we created. It's just a little musical montage with, showing us doing work with our clients, kind of just gives you a little personality to your videos. It's not something that you have to do on your YouTube videos. It's something we like to do. We don't always use it. Sometimes we'll use a shortened version. Sometimes we don't use it. It is something that either A, could grab people's attention and make them like your videos, or it can make people fall off your videos. So make sure that it's something really fun and enjoyable to watch that enhances your videos as opposed to taking away. I don't want this video to be too long, so let me just show you a couple other things real fast. If you want to add music, you just bring your music into your project, and all you have to do is just drag it over. It makes its own little line here. You can, again, just adjust the volume. You're often going to want to turn it down, especially if it's over, speaking. You can also make this bigger by double clicking on it. Let's say that you wanted the music to be quieter and then you want to bring it up because you're covering some B-roll where there's no talking. All you do is you go in and you create these little keyframes by clicking on this little circle. Make a second keyframe where you want it to start going up, and then you can just drag and bring the volume up. In this little gray box right below my cursor, you can see how far it's going up. So right now it's up 7.5 decibels. And then maybe you want to bring it down again. You go over to the spot where you want it to come down and you make 2 keyframes, and then you can bring it down. So you can adjust the volume that way as well. You have a lot of freedom with, adjusting the volume throughout, where maybe you have voiceover, you want it a little lower, maybe you go to B-roll, you want it a little higher, or you want to ramp up the energy, you bring it up louder. This is where you would do that. Other things you can add to your video to enhance them would be graphics. We have lower thirds that we add to ours. These are pre-made in After Effects, so I reuse them time and time again, so I'm not recreating these for every video. Another time saver, but you can bring it in, you just drag it onto its own line, and then you can manipulate it with your effect controls. I can bring the positioning down, I can make it a little bit smaller. I can shorten it. If you want to shorten it, you just grab and drag, or you can make it longer. Maybe add a little fade to the end. You can right click and add a little fade. so it fades out really nicely. The last thing we'll talk about is transitions. I know this is a lot of content in one video. There's so much that goes into editing. I would love to go into more. We do have other videos on it, so make sure to subscribe. Let's talk about your effects, your transitions. You can go to video transitions. I'm not a big fan of using a ton of these, but sometimes they do come in handy. All you have to do is grab and then bring it to the video, and then you can make it, hold on here. Then you can go in and you can make them happen for longer. The duration, you see the little box that says duration. So that's 20 frames. This is 5 frames, and you can watch through and see if you like it. So you can add transitions and effects. That's all over here in your effects tab. So play around with those. There's a lot of different things that you can do with that. I do wish I could go into so much more. I really love editing and I love teaching people editing. We are creating more and more videos like this all the time. We have a playlist that goes through the basics of editing, so make sure to check that out. Make sure to subscribe, and happy editing.